Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, July 17th, 2023. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week is off to a great start. If you haven't yet, get subscribed to the YouTube channel and head over to jaaaronsimmons.com and get subscribed for my monthly newsletter. Today I want to talk about something that I increasingly think is a virtue that we are desperately in need of, and it's the idea of self-trust. The idea here emerged as a topic for a video because this week I started teaching a new summer class, a new intro to philosophy class, and several of my students in their first little autobiographical paper they had to write commented about how, they loved writing, but they struggled because they didn't think they were very good at it. And other students commented about, their anxiety and different things they wrestled with and really, doubted themselves about how to navigate the world in correct ways. Well, I think this is actually something that's a bigger problem than just with, this little group of students I'm currently teaching. I think in a time of mis and disinformation, in a time of rampant conspiracy theories, it becomes exceptionally difficult to know who to trust. And one of the anchors for thinking well about trust is the importance of trusting ourselves, in particular, trusting ourselves as responsible epistemic agents. In other words, are we the sort of people who we have trust will seek out the right sorts of information, will be open to critique, will be responsive to objections? Well, this idea of developing appropriate self-trust is something that lots of philosophers have thought through, from Keith Lehrer to Linda Zagzebski. Now, in particular, Linda Zagzebski talks about the radical importance of self-trust as a ground for trusting anyone else. And her idea in this regard is that if we can't trust our own judgment about who to trust, then trusting who we choose to trust may be itself a bad move. And that idea, I think, is actually really important in expansive ways. Can I trust myself about who to listen to? Can I trust myself about my own judgment in reading a situation? Well, these are things that I think require us to become aware and invested in what Zagzebski calls the epistemic virtues. The idea here is that what it means to be epistemically conscientious, as she says, is that we develop the right sorts of habits of mind that contribute to a reasonable, trusting scenario. So, for example, am I somebody who is so close-minded that I can't listen to views with which I disagree? Well, then I'm probably not worthy of self-trust because I'm insular in my thinking. If instead I develop the epistemic habit of hospitality, of receiving criticism with a good spirit, then maybe I now can trust my own judgment because I know it's not closed, but instead has already engaged and considered objections. Am I honest with myself about the biases that exist often in my own thinking, in my own experience? Well, this again is a kind of epistemic virtue. To overcome that bias, we've got to start by being aware of it and admit that it exists. This is something a lot of us, I think, want to ignore as we view the other people as the irrational ones, rather than recognizing the ways in which and the habits of mind that can often lead me down bad paths. One more example. Are we humble enough to be aware that truth-seeking requires that I don't think I know it all, that I don't have it all figured out? So these ideas, humility, this notion of being hospitable and being honest with where I stand and where I'm likely to go wrong, these are ideas, I think, that can create in us the right sorts of epistemic habits, not to guarantee that our beliefs are true, but to best as possible situate us so that we are worthy of our own trust. And that then opens on to us then trusting people worthy of trustworthiness. Now, this is important, again, beyond simply judgments and beliefs. It's also important relative to our practices and our lives together. We live in a shared world. That sharedness requires that we expect of each other this sort of trustworthy status. So encouraging each other to develop these habits of mind, I would suggest, is part of what democratic deliberative society expects. If you want to see more on that idea, definitely check out the work of Robert Talisse regarding how to preserve and sustain democracy. He encourages us to develop these habits, these epistemic habits, so that we understand the epistemic stakes of democratic life. All right, I'll put a link below to both Linda Zagzebski's work and also to some work by Robert Talisse. I hope this is helpful. Be aware of where we can get things wrong so we can develop the habits so that maybe we do things a little bit more correctly, a little bit more charitably. Take care. I'll see you next time, unless a piano falls on our heads.